Hello and welcome. Dead by Daylight got a new killer called the Singularity, and with him we got 3 new unique perks. And because I love playing the Plague, I'm not going to be playing the new killer, but instead I will be using one of his unique perks called Forced Hesitation. And this is a perk I'm very excited to play with because when we down a survivor with it, any other survivor within 16 meters of that survivor will be hindered by 20% for 10 seconds. So as you can guess, this is actually a very good perk to have on ranged killers because once you down a survivor with your ranged attack, it'll make downing another survivor very easy if they happen to be anywhere near them. And to ensure that we know where other survivors might be when we down a survivor, we also put on Infectious Fright, which will make any other survivor scream as long as they're in our terror radius when we down another survivor. And to ensure that we tend to find survivors that are grouped up together, we also put on Discordance, which is just a perk that I love, and that perk lets us know when 2 or more survivors hop up on a gen together. And the last perk that we're using is Pop Goes the Weasel, because it just got recently buffed. It'll now regress 30% of the progress on a generator after hooking a survivor and kicking a gen, which in my opinion feels very good. It turns out extra 10% does make a big difference, so I'm also very excited to try that out. And for our add-ons, we brought an apple, and that's just going to ensure that we are able to use our power more than once in the game, just in case none of the survivors end up cleansing. And then our other add-on is Incensed Ointment, which will cause any survivors within our terror radius when we pick up our power to scream, and it acts as a very good locator for most hidden survivors. So yeah, that's the build. Let's jump into some games and see how it does. Okay, Dead Dog Saloon's a very good map for our builds. It's relatively small compared to other maps, so Infectious Fright we expect to go off quite a bit on this map, just because of that. And hopefully we'll also get a few, at least more than a few, Forced Hesitation activations. So this is pretty standard. We want to break a few of these breakable walls here just because it makes this map a little easier, because survivors will always go to shack, so I feel like it's generally a good idea to break that, at least that breakable wall. And you shouldn't be in any rush to break the breakable walls in main building. If you happen to spawn right there at the beginning, then that's fine, go ahead, but yeah, I feel like you should only go there if you, or only break the walls if you end up chasing survivors there. But yeah, kind of standard game plan. We go to puke on some gens, make sure they get infected, so if a survivor has to work on, they'll get themselves infected here. And this gen is pretty important to keep around, so I'm just going to hit that to have it start regressing, because you want to keep all these gens that are in the back area here pretty unprogressed. I feel like that kind of helps in the long run. And yeah, so we're going to grab our power here just because we got 2 people infected. We want to get this ball rolling. And this David's very, very caught out here, so we'll just get this down real quick. And Infectious Fright doesn't go off when we down him, so we can rest assured that there aren't really any other survivors here. And we see someone working on this gen up here. I think the best idea is you don't really want to defend this gen because it's incredibly hard to defend. Because it's already in a building that's pretty strong, unless you already broken all the walls. So honestly, if you find a better generator to use your pop on, I would do that instead. And we decided to chase Adam, but I actually end up deciding not to commit to that, and instead just break this wall and head back to the David, because in all the time that we spent coming up here, popping the gen, starting to chase with Adam and all that, no one has actually come to save David. And since he's about 15 seconds away from hitting second state, we're just going to go ahead and defend for those last 15 seconds here. And yeah, we see Felix kind of crouched over there in the corner. And we get the shack pallet out of him too, which is huge. And yeah, so David hits second state because they wanted to do gens rather than save the guy, which I guess is fair. They didn't realize that. Well, actually, I don't know what happened there. Just I guess everyone was just assuming that someone would save somebody else, or someone would save him, but didn't end up happening. So we'll use that to our advantage. The only problem here is that they're going to get quite a number of gens done because I guess you could call it a kind of a greedy play. It kind of works out for them. is they get another one done. They only have 2 left to go here. And we really haven't had an opportunity to really use our Pop Goes the Weasel. So we'll hit the Thalita here. She's kind of caught out in somewhere else. We're going to charge our power. We're not really going to immediately use it. We're just going to kind of make her think that we are, to kind of zone her out a little bit. And so she has Lithe. So there's not much we could do about that. We're going to try to cut her off here, but I think we end up finding Adam instead, which works out. Because he goes down right in front of this breakable wall, which is also a good wall to break if you happen to be in the area for that. And we're gonna grab our fountain here. We saw at least one survivor over in this area, and our fountain confirms that they're still here. And it's Felix, and we kind of already know Felix isn't probably their strongest player on this team. So it's I assume it's gonna be a fast down here, but our power just kind of goes right through him. He kind of phases out of existence for that, which is typical of a Felix player, honestly, because they are kind of magical. But he ends up running into us and we get the down anyway. Which was really good because honestly, I was not sure what I was going to do if I didn't get this down. Because we were really far behind. They just finished their 4th gen. And they're piling on this other gen here, which we can see is highlighted with discordance. And when we get there, we find that it doesn't actually have a whole lot of progress on it. And we also saw the David run off from it, so we're actually not terribly interested in chasing Thalita because she isn't fully infected and is also not been hooked yet, I believe. So we actually want to get this David because we know, is dead on the hook. And if you saw that we probably should have got him there, you're probably right. But netcoding doesn't like to work on pallets for me for some reason. But it's okay, I'm not terribly upset, but I am panicking at this point. And I thought he was going to fake that vault, but he doesn't. However, Adam here comes with the clutch save for us, I should say, because he activates our forced hesitation, which means not only does Adam go down, we can easily get the David because he has been hindered 20%, which is really big for us. Because now we turned 1 down into 2, and they're in just a terrible spot. And we pick Adam up from this side of the pallet just in case there's anyone from behind us, but we don't hear anybody running up to us, so it's okay, we just walk through it. And yeah, Thalita's over there. She almost has this gen done. We're going to use our new improved and recently buffed pop. We see Thalita go around that side of the building, and we're pretty sure she can see us going this way. So as far as she knows, she thinks we're still going that direction, but we double back and cut her off, and with that play we can get the down very quickly before she really has time to get anywhere safe. So yeah, so this went very south for them very quickly, and Felix just cleansed in shack, so we're just gonna go ahead and grab our power there. And when a survivor screams and it's supposed to notify you of their location, if they're too close to you, you won't see their bubble. For some reason, it throws me off a little bit because you expect to see a bubble, but when they're too close to you, you don't see it at all. And of course, we know that Felix phases out of existence when you use our powers, so we actually end up having to M1 him there. But if we catch him in a locked animation, we can actually hit him because he can't phase out of existence and also save another survivor. So we know that. We've done the math and we can confirm that that's what happens. And again, he phased out of existence from the game at the very last second, so yeah, we take those. It's very hard to go up against wizards like that, so if you find yourself going up against a wizard like that, just yeah, just do what I do. I'm sorry, it's stupid. Alright, so yeah, it was a good game. They had a lot of, couple lives, I think. Yeah, it looks like it. And we noticed that David was running the new Gabriel perk. made for this, which makes them 3% faster, and if you're going up against Plague, that makes you permanently 3% faster because you're always going to be injured. So it is truly a scary perk to go up against if you play this character, if you main Plague. I kind of knew that when I first heard about this perk. I was like, oh no, you're going to see made for this and resilience, and it's going to be a bad time for all of us. So yes, with this new patch, Area of Crows has been re-enabled, much to my disappointment because I absolutely still hate this map, even though they have reworked it. It's only slightly better than it used to be. And the problem I still have with this map is that there are still so many safe pallets all around the map. You're gonna find it very difficult to play around probably 90% of the pallets. But yeah, so we'll break that door because it's usually always relevant. There has been very, very few times where I have not taken chase in main building on Area of Crows, but it's typically a safe bet to just go ahead and break that if you happen to be in the area. But yeah, so we just go ahead, try to infect as many people as we can at the start. We infect the window and the pallet, so if they do decide to drop it, well, then they'll get themselves infected. And Selita, though, will not do such a thing because she knows if she just runs around this rock, there is very little I can do. I have to get very, very close to her to infect her, because if you keep running around that rock, you will, and you keep trying to infect someone running around that rock, you're never going to be able to hit them. You actually have to get very, very close to them. And that's just another thing about this map that I love. And yeah, we decided to drop chase with Lolita, instead go for Cheryl because she went to a weaker spot, and we see one of the safety pallets that we have going on here. But at least we get that one out of the way. And yep, she runs off, that's fine. We'll let her get herself infected, and that is the game plan. Try to get all the pallets out of the way as quickly as possible. Alright, this Lolita is a god on Shack, and she just knows exactly when to vault. And it's very hard. We, at this point, realize that she's very good. And she doesn't fall for a lot of mind games that we try to pull. But we try our best because it's Shack. And yet we can't hit her there either. And as soon as I vault this window and see that pallet right in front of me, the fires of hatred that I have for this map are stoked, because I absolutely hate maps that have strong pallets that go into the window of Shack, and it just feels terrible. But we finally get her with a mind game classic, and we get the down. But yeah, that's kind of the problem with this map. It's just there's so many pallets that are just a little too safe, and it just makes, especially for M1 killers, it just makes their lives miserable. And yep, so they've already done 2 gens before we even got our first down, or first hook, I should say. And they're well on their way of getting a 3rd gen done. But we can delay the inevitable there for a little bit with the pop. And we grab our power just to see if we can find anybody here. We don't. So it's a little concerning for us. And we take a quick peek at that gen in the corner there, just to see, but it's not really quite progressed, so we're not too concerned about it. So instead, we just go ahead, head back to check, and try to get the person that unhooked. Although again, this little tile here, is also really hard to hit. And this I overthought a bit. I should have just tried my power up and just hit him again, but you live and learn. And yeah, this is a really hard tile to shoot your power over and try to arc it correctly, so it's difficult, but you could do it, but we don't really have the time to try to perfect that. As you can see, they are swarming the gen right behind me. And in hindsight, it probably would have been okay to hit that gen, just to buy ourselves a little bit more time before they finish it, but I'm not entirely sure if that would have actually changed the outcome of them finishing this gen. But we are able to get here in time to delay it a little bit. And this Lita is just so fast, she's able to touch the gen to keep it from regressing anymore, and still has enough time to make it to this pallet. And this is what I mean, this map is just littered with these awful pallets that are very hard to play around. But we're gonna commit because she's the only person that we have a hook on that isn't already on the hook. And yeah, we try to cut her off this pallet, but yeah, of course she makes it. And we know she's probably not going to drop it, so we're not too worried about it, because she is very, very safe, very comfortable here. And it's at that point that I realized that, of course, that there are at least 8 more pallets in this little area here. So I'm just going to go ahead, grab my power, make my life a little easier, or try to make it a little easier, and maybe get somebody else here. And we see the scratch marks, we see the blood going to Shack, so we know they're going right back to Shack, because that is probably the safest place you can be. And yes, this Lita just knows when to vault, when not to. But she does mess up there. But it does end up, they do end up getting that gen done right in front of us, which is just a shame. So now, we're in a kind of a weird pickle, right? Because this Lita will be dead on hook as soon as she's unhooked. And we need to, in order to kind of help bring ourselves back from the brink here, is to tunnel her out. Or at least prioritize tunneling her out. And I care much more about the Shack gen than I do about this gen here. Especially since I would not have made it over there in a million years. Before they could finish it. Alright, so the Cheryl drops the pallet, and we show our red stain on the other side to her, which makes her think that we're probably going to commit to trying to hit her on that side, but we know a little bit better. We double back, and as we had initially thought, she vaults back over, and we can hit her before she can fall back to safety. Which is great, and at this point, I decide that we need to look at the gen situation here, reassess where we're at, because we know this Ronaldo, whatever his name is, we know that he has been doing gens in the background, hasn't gotten himself infected once, so we know he's the one that's been just progressing every gen. But he finally gets himself infected there. And our discordance goes off, and we have our power, so we're confident that it's the Quentin and the Thalita here. And now that we've gotten the down on Quentin, our forced hesitation activates, and the Thalita was close enough that it actually worked on her. However, she's in a good spot here, so it actually takes a minute before we can actually catch up to her. Fortunately, we're able to get the down, quick enough at least, before she gets to the pallet. Although, with our power, the pallet's not that safe. But if she wasn't slowed down, she would have made a lot more distance than what you just saw there. And they were able to pick up Quentin in that time. This was very quick. That makes me think they have like some sort of perk that makes them pick people up from the ground faster, or maybe Quentin himself has Unbreakable. But either way, we re-down him, and one of the nice changes they made to this map is that they put a lot of hooks upstairs in the main building. And that makes it so we can hook him quickly and move on. And we know both of the remaining survivors are here. But we only saw Cheryl, so we decide to commit to her, but we realize she's cleansing, which is fine. We like that. It was something of a blessing that they cleansed as much as they did at the end. And we're gonna go ahead and injure Cheryl, and then we're gonna try to injure her again, but she is kind of like Felix in regards of knowing how to phase through my power. But ultimately, it doesn't mean much. It just meant that downing her is just a little slower than we would have liked. But yeah, if you're actually wondering what really happened there, it is possible to be too quick with your power. If you hit them maybe once and then followed up a little too quickly, they are still invincible. So what you have to do is you actually have to M1 them, because apparently they're not invincible if you M1 them. For whatever reason, I really couldn't tell you why. It's just a neat thing with the coding. Either way though, we are already doing way better than we were before. And I was testing to see there if you can still infect hooks, but it turns out you cannot do that anymore, which is sad, but understandable. And we see Quentin here. He drops his pallet very quickly. He probably, if he knew how to play against Plague a bit better, he'd probably know that he could just run around these rocks like 8 times before he would have to drop that pallet. But fortunately for us, he doesn't know that. But for future reference, if you are having trouble with Plague on this map for some reason, you just need to hug those rocks really tightly, and there's not much they can do about it. And yeah, so now we know both people are on that same gen. They just got off of it because Discordance is unactivated. But we do end up breaking this generator just to reinfect it. So their power is just about to run out here. And if they want to prevent that from regressing, they're going to have to reinfect themselves. And I did hear I could have swore I heard someone cough, but I have no idea where they were. So I just kind of hit that and left. Because, yeah, at this point in the game, it's kind of hard to leave like one gen unattended, because they could easily split up on either gen and try to lead a long chase so that the other person could finish the gen. They don't do this, fortunately. And it's at this point that I think they're both panicking quite a bit. And we find somebody here. Or we thought we did. They somehow snuck around me, and I still don't really understand how they did that. But we end up running into Cheryl, and it appears that she's given up, which is fine. I'll take that. It's just, this map is so awful for killer that any kind of leeway that they give us, I am more than happy to take. So yeah, this is one of those games where it's just like, sometimes your perks just don't really do anything for you. I think Pop saved us a little bit, prevented that gen from being done as quickly as they could have had it done. And Forced Hesitation worked, I think, once for us, just once, but it worked when it mattered most, I think, so it was actually really kind of clutch. And yeah, we see that Thalita had made for this and resilience, so she was able to run fast and vault fast, and that made it really hard to deal with. And that's sort of the kind of build that you're going to see, I think, on a lot of survivors these days, just because it's a really good combo. It makes chasing them pretty difficult. And yeah, if she made it to endgame with Hope, then it would probably be near impossible to catch her on this map. So yeah, that's gonna do it for me today. So overall, I have to say this build was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing with it. I'm not certain it's gonna win you a lot of games, although it did end up winning me quite a good number of games, I think. I think I went 6 for 6 on this build, although 2 of those games, survivors quit at the very beginning of it, so it's hard to say for sure. But what I do know for sure is that it's incredibly fun. You should definitely try it out for yourself, and like I said earlier in the video, you don't have to use this on Plague. You can use it on any range killer, and I also think Oni could make some good use out of it too. But yeah, test it out for yourself, see how you like it, and if you enjoyed that video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Every little bit helps us out, and let me know what you want to see in the future, and I'll try to make it happen. But yeah, until next time.